Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Holly Turiya and Jennifer Akkad. We're back for the second part of our Life as Temple series, and we're doing a dual podcast today. So we are hosting on both my podcast, the Tantric Awakening podcast.
Yes, and on Authentic and Soul Embodiment Living podcast too.
Yay.
Yay.
And today is part 2 of our 3-part series, Life as Temple, as we dive into and begin to open our container, which launches this month here in Nosara. And so last week, we opened into the pillar of intimacy with self. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, please do. It's so good, diving into all the pieces around embodiment and really feeling into the truth of your body. And then today we're going to dive into building on that foundation, intimacy with others, and really exploring all the pieces around vulnerability, communication, energy dynamics, polarity, all sorts of beautiful things in store today. So here we are.
Yeah.
Let's open up this play space today. So Jennifer, when we feel into intimacy with others, what do you feel are some of the key pieces to showing up in truth as we relate to others from our intimacy with self? What are some of the key pieces to relating with others in intimacy and truth?
Yes, 100%. I mean, the first word that comes here is communication. The importance of communication as we speak out our truth through our voice and creating sacred containers around these vulnerable truths that we want to be sharing in relationships or interactions with others. So the first open question is, are we creating these safe spaces where our voice is allowed to name our desires, to name our fears, to name, what is the request of the moment, to name, everything that is in the topic of intimacy and that is vulnerable. So for me, the vulnerable piece about sharing about our desire is it's really daring to be true and not requiring the other. Again, we spoke about this last week, to give validation to our desire. It's like 100% owning up to the juiciness of the desire or the request that we have in the moment, and allowing ourselves to receive either the yes or the no coming from the other, not taking it personally. And then being open to co-create with the yes and with the no of another person. So the vulnerable piece in there is really about how can we hold our own space within the space of being with another person, and how can we also cross to physical touch, when it comes to naming, and then being able to say at the right moment, well, this is not exactly what I was requesting, or this is not exactly what I like, or this is not exactly how I like it. And it always brings vulnerability, and each second of every moment of an interaction with another person, and then being super, super open in communication to receive the other person. So yes, there's the self, but do we have that space inside of ourselves to receive the other, to receive their request, to receive their desire, and to be open to respond to this rather than to react to this? And this is a key piece here. The response instead of the reaction is again all about the nervous system, but this is also where the whole truth and authentic embodiment comes into place of, okay, your truth is as valid as mine, and there's nothing wrong, there's nothing right. How can we stay in neutrality when we are interacting with another person, whether it's through touch or it's through the direct communication verbally, and allow our bodies to respond from the knowing of our tissues? And if there is a reaction, to bring consciousness in and awareness to, okay, well, let me tap back into my own self, hear what's happening, communicate it, or let it de-armor as we are interacting with another person. That's what's coming right now, and we can keep on weaving on this open question that you had. I'm curious what you have to say here.
I love so much of what you're sharing here, Jennifer, and the vulnerability and being anchored in yourself to have the courage to speak your desire and also to have the receptivity to respond, not react to the desires and truth of others. And this is why the previous pillar of intimacy with self is so valuable, because we have to have so much intimacy with ourselves to even know what our desires and boundaries are. And we have to have so much intimacy with self and be anchored in our worthiness and our compassion, so that if we receive a no or a no thank you from one of our requests, it doesn't shatter our sense of being and our sense of confidence. We take it as a thank you for honoring yourself. Right. So I love all of this that you shared. And this is, I would say, one of like the core arts of temple culture. We practice in temple, in the experience of temple, verbalizing our requests, speaking our boundaries, speaking our desires. But life as temple, taking what we learn around all that and bringing it and integrating it into our lives, is we get to practice this in every moment, in every relationship, and not just the intimacy with our sexual and erotic partners, but with our coworkers, with our team, with our tribe, our family, right? This is really intimacy with others, expands beyond just erotic connection and into vulnerability with everybody that we connect with in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you're bridging this into the daily life. You know, it's not only in the bedroom per
Yeah.
se, it's like everything. How do we respond to life? Are we making clear requests to the relationship to other with the universe, you know? And we'll dive deeper into this topic when we speak more into creation, right? And connection with source. But it's I love weaving this in with the topic of relating to others, because I never take any relationship for granted, right? There's a reason for two people meeting. So when there's the universe, let's say, collaborates and brings somebody in front of you, I always approach it with curiosity in my heart. So already, if there's like any judgment in my heart of like, oh no, it's not the right person, or it's not in the right shape, or it's not in the right setup, like right away, I just kind of remove all the filters, and I'm like, there is a there is a soul in front of me that is holding the perfect codes for me to get to the next level. So that's when I bring the theme of growth in relationship to others. And then it becomes a whole different conversation also with another person in front of you. So yes, we speak about fears, desires, boundaries, and the requests, and we play physically with one another. And at the same time, what is the opportunity? What is the opportunity of healing with another person in front of you? What is the opportunity of growth? What, you know, if we go into the healing mode of it, knowing that pleasure is right behind, but if we go into the healing manifestation of it, what is the resonance with the person in front of you? The resonance in wounds, you know, the same wound, you're suddenly like, you're meeting up and you can have a conscious dialogue with this other person and say, okay, well, this is part of my inner scape, this is part of your escape. How can we hold each other accountable and use this relationship as kind of a bounce? How do you say this? Like to take a spring, you know,
Yeah.
into the next evolution of this relationship. So speaking into relationship with others, for me, it's important to bring this dimension of relating and with another person. And I know we said we might speak into this maybe in a different conversation, but it's really bridging here into relationship with other and the multifacets and multi-dimension that relating to another can be. And also the vulnerability, we're speaking into vulnerability of sharing the space we're coming from in a relationship, the vulnerability of sharing, I have this wound, this is super vulnerable for me to say this, and request, hey, can you hold space for me when I'm expressing this part of myself? You know, can I express this archetype or this part of my personality that, you know, asking, can you hold space for this part of me to express? All of this is relating to another in a vulnerable and authentic way from my perspective, obviously.
Mhm. Yes, 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 yes. And, you know, ultimately, life is relationship. Every part of our life is relationship. Our sexual and erotic loverships, our partners, our friends, our family, our community, right? It's all relationship. And when we can really embody these tools of relating intimately and vulnerably with other people from a place of authenticity, truth, vulnerability, everything changes. And this is really what our container, our Life as Temple container is all about, is how to express ourselves and how to receive the expression of others. Because instead of hiding our wounds and avoiding them and rejecting the wounds in others and judging them, which is what so much of society does with avoidance, right? And armor. It's like, what would change in our lives if we began to de-armor, if we began to reveal within the support of our relationships with others, and how much more love and connection and pleasure and truth and vulnerability and celebration is available to us when we intimately connect with others. So this is such potent medicine. And I believe really like the deepest medicine that the world needs right now is these tools of remembering and relearning how to intimately connect with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love this. And the word play comes to the surface right now. And it's like learning to play with one another and
Yeah.
bringing the juiciness, you know, like the world of healing can be very dense and very, let's say shadowy. And yes, it holds this shadow, but it holds the pleasure and the light also. So how can we take it lightly, knowing that it's part of life, and learning to play with
Yeah.
what we call wounds that have a negative charge, let's say, or a shadow charge to it, but actually really choose to alchemize it right away in play and
Mhm.
have these sacred spaces like what we offer, for example, Life as Temple, this sacred journey, and use it as a setup and as a playground to explore these different parts of ourselves, bringing the light behind the shadow, bringing the pleasure behind the wound, and playing in interaction one with another, the masculine and the feminine. We wanted to speak into this, playing with the polarities of first welcoming the inner feminine and the inner masculine, but then being in play with another person. And okay, well, when I have a masculine in front of me, how does my body respond? When I have a feminine in front of me, how does my body respond? And bringing our explorations to the edge of what we know, to the
Mhm.
edge of what we know. And that's where I feel the juiciness really, really starts, you know, when there's a blank canvas of play and playground, and the polarities choose rather than the mind chooses. When we trust a space so much that the polarities choose. Yeah.
Mm. Yes. It's like surrendering to the intelligence of the polarity, the intelligence of the turn on, the intelligence of that electric force that moves through our body that brings us closer and creates intrigue towards another person. Like you said, there's something there. There's alchemy, there's healing, there's transformation. And I'm so glad that you brought this element of play in, because so much of the healing journey can be focused on the purge and the purification and how valuable that is. But we create that space in our nervous system and our body so that we have more capacity for pleasure, for play, for joy, for polarity. And like you had said, it begins with that integration of the inner masculine and feminine so that our own eros is online and running. And then the magic that happens when you bring that polarity into your external relationships with any gender, right? Because we each have, every gender has masculine and feminine energetics, right? So even for you and I as two women, what happens when I am in my masculine and you're in your feminine, or I'm in my feminine and you're in your masculine, and really having more dynamic range to create polarity within all types of relationship containers, friendships, loverships, creational containers. So juicy.
Yes, it's amazing. It's such an amazing topic. And yes, within the theme of polarities, I wanted to bring the theme of when we interact one with another, there's energies moving into one another's body, right? So it's how to also learn the art of play with our center, learn the art of play, knowing that through the exchange of energy, I believe it's important to have tools to clear ourselves after an interaction, to know, well, where is my center in all of this? Am I making a decision based on really my inner compass, or am I making a decision based on the energy of the other and the projection? So this is why, again, intimacy with self is such a crucial basic step to then when we interact to be like, okay, well, this energy entered my body. Do I want to keep it in? Don't I want to keep it in? How do I clear myself? And then have a, you know, a kind of a luggage of tools to
Mhm.
come to center after playing and after exploring.
Yes. So important. So important because yes, if we're not deeply embodied and grounded in ourselves, it's easier to attach to an experience, right? So if I have a beautiful experience with someone, I could attach to that person because I believe it's that person that allowed for all this love and pleasure to move through me. Well, that person and I co-created that moment, but the love and pleasure was all moving through me. It was my experience, right? It was a shared experience. And so, yes, energetic clearing tools, learning how to be in the moment, but not attach to the moment, right? Letting the love and eros move through you and knowing that it's always there and it's not another person that is giving it to us. And this is such a deep temple art, such a deep temple art. And when we can learn this art of energetic clearing and being in the moment without attachment, so much more becomes available to us because we have this more transpersonal connection to our intimate relationships with others.
Oh, I love that we're bringing this topic. I mean, it's of such crucial importance. And yes, it is a temple art that we're here to practice and to learn and to deepen and to deepen. This is when we really start being in the intelligence of life beyond the physical only and going into the transcendental. And there's something I wanted to share because it's this dance between being with another and being with oneself, and being with another and being with oneself. So intimacy with other, intimacy with self. And what you spoke into is how can a relationship also be, again, in the theme of growth, but an activation for our own body to go to the next level of soul embodiment, of light embodiment, and make this request. Hey, you're holding these codes that I know my body has, but they're kind of like repressed, or they're kind of like still a little bit in the shadow, but you're holding them, you're fully embodying them. So therefore, how can we play together and have you just bring all your medicine, and my body's going to be activated, I'm going to be more full for other people. And then there's also a natural exchange that happens, and it's just a vice versa exchange. And it brings me to the theme of how can we hold more. You addressed it in different wording, but how can we hold more pleasure? How can we hold more light in our body? And this gets back to the nervous system. How can we train our nervous system to hold more of
Mhm.
these light codes that are our birthright, that we're here to help each other as priestesses and as shower priests, to activate in one another. And that's really the ultimate of what a temple is, right?
Mm.
The ultimate of life as temple. We are here as pillars of light, embodied, making this choice to, bring more of these codes and lights on the planet. And then we are supporting each other to activate each other. And at the end of the day, to activate the planet and others through our medicine and our gifts, our
Yeah.
essence.
Yes.
It's
I
good.
have like full body chills right now. It's like we sit in medicine ceremony and take in the energy of plant medicine, and it's so powerful. And I really feel like this transmission really is the deepest medicine that we have access to is in our bodies. It is our eros, it's our love, it's our consciousness, right? That is like it's on tap always accessible to us to both give and receive. And this is life. This is life as temple, is really knowing that and having the tools and practices that we'll share in our container to access that and have the courage to live that and embody that. And it's remembering that temples have been around since the beginning of time. They were a place where the warriors would go and release the war from their bodies so that they could go back to their families in the vibration of love and service, right? So these are ancient arts that we all have access to. And this container of Life as Temple is a remembrance, a primordial remembrance and activation of those codes that we already hold.
Oh, wow. I love it. I love it. I just have this image of people coming in and they just, leave their suitcases outside of the door,
Totally.
whatever was from the past or from the future. And they're like, I'm coming in naked as an image, like I'm
Yeah.
coming in naked. I'm coming here to absorb, to be activated, to transmit, to offer myself, to learn, to grow. I just really have this beautiful feeling of people entering the room
Yes.
with, because it's the image of the warrior that you brought that just activated this. I love that you brought this because we're not in life to be warriors, and sometimes the warrior archetype is required, but our natural essence is in the codes of pleasure and of love and joy and peace and
Yeah.
yes, the highest frequencies of being.
Yes. Which really gets activated in our intimacy with others. If we are just solo in our experience, marching forward in our armor, in our fear, it's going to feel like we're the warrior all the time. Like we're always at war, conflict within ourselves, conflict within our relationships. But when we de-armor, like you said, leave the baggage at the door, leave the luggage at the door, and come in raw, exposed, and vulnerable, and in truth, that's when our lover really comes online, our priestess, our medicine man, all of these royal archetypes to be activated.
Mm,
So
yes.
sacred.
The lover, and really offering so much, love and compassion to these fear parts, right?
Yes.
It's absolutely not about perfection. It's absolutely not about entering a container, yes, being in this perfect scenario, but rather embracing everything, really welcoming the fear as part of your inner scheme, as a beautiful protection, as an intelligence of the body and an intelligence of life, but then looking at it with curiosity and saying, okay, like, do I need this now? What am I
Yeah.
really, really calling in? What am I
Yeah.
really, really here to do, on the planet, but relating to another? How do I really want to show up? And making this conscious choice, how do I want to show up in a relationship? What codes am I bringing? And if there's fear, then fear can be named. But we notice that every time we actually name a fear and give space for the fear, it dissolves.
Totally.
It's not, fear is actually, it feels true, but it's not really true. It's kind of a program. So the second we bring awareness to it, which is light, it's kind of like, oh, I'm seen, and then it starts like,
Yeah.
it starts dissolving with space. And in
Yes.
relation to other, it's the best gift we can actually give to another person, to be sincere in our fear, but to actually let the fear dissolve in front of another person and to have our body open to somebody else is the best gift we can offer. I truly believe so. And it's so nurturing at such a deep level that it only creates jewels and gems, on the other side. What else?
Mm.
What else?
Yeah. And that's such deep intimacy, right? And it's, each of these podcasts we're recording has the word intimacy. And I want to invite people to expand their definition of that word, because I feel when people hear the word intimacy, they automatically think of like sexual connection with a partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like what you just shared, allowing your fear to dissolve and transmute in front of someone, that's intimacy. Showing up for your daily practice and asking your body what it needs, that's intimacy, right? And ultimately, like you shared, the goal is to become transparent, to become a clear channel. So we're not rejecting the fear and the contraction. We're allowing it to move, but we're not holding on to it. And we're also not holding on to the pleasure and love. We're just allowing it all to move as a vibration, as a current through our body, as an experience, letting it all come and go. So yeah,
Yes.
that's important practice.
And I want to weave this with what you shared just before, which is the attachment piece, because there's also nothing wrong with attaching, but attaching consciously. Like when you meet somebody, this is also part of the communication. Hey, let's bring our energies together, let's attach, and maybe there's going to be a creation that's going to come out of it. Maybe there's going to be a relationship and some other potentiality, but to be conscious through the whole process, because attachment sometimes, I feel that in the spiritual realm, the spiritual world, sometimes you're like non-attachment, 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 but there's something also so juicy about having another human body and being in front of you and saying, hey, I want to be attached. It's not in an unhealthy way, but it's in a conscious way. Like, I like you so much. Like, I want to attach. I want you in my life. I don't want this necessarily to be just a punctual thing. And this is to be communicated and consciously grow on this path of attachment or relating, but more in time rather than a punctual, let's say, meeting in a temple space, for example. So it can perpetuate also in time with consciousness.
Yes. And this is really where like the word devotion comes into this space. And this is
Mhm.
something that we'll be talking a lot about in our Life as Temple container, is how to create relationship agreements. And it really falls into the same skill set of expressing your needs, your fears, your desires, your boundaries, so that together you can come together and co-create a beautiful relationship dynamic, whether it's a friendship, a lovership, a partnership, whatever it is, that is in truth for both of you. And like you said, it's consciously being woven, as opposed to like letting our shadow wounds like trauma bond and attach in that way, but actually coming into a space of union and devotion in a conscious way. And so this is like going to be a huge part of our container, and intimacy with others is learning how to do this, because not a lot of us
Yes.
have been taught, right? So this is really why we're going to be offering this.
Yes, the different types of agreements. Yes, the different types of relating. And
Yes.
yes, so much to share.
So much to share. Thank goodness we have a container to continue weaving. So before we
Yeah.
share a little bit more about our container, Jennifer, is there anything else that you'd like to share about this piece?
No, like I said, there's so much we could share, but we're good. I feel an invitation. Yes, we're inviting you. I feel it in my belly. Feel the
Yeah.
excitement in my belly of inviting everybody who's listening to join us for this container and to keep exploring, deepening, and expanding through this through this experience. Yeah, of intimacy with everything.
Intimacy with everything. Intimacy with everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So the journey that we are going to be co-creating and leading and guiding for us is Life is Temple. It begins February 16th here in Nosara at a beautiful place called Tierra More, which is a incredible community project that's really anchored in these temple arts. And we're going to be meeting on Fridays from 10 to 2 for a 7-week period with a break in the middle for integration and digestion. And then at the end of our journey together, we're going to be landing the plane with a temple night, with a celebration to really embody and practice these tools. So it's going to be so profound, so healing. And I'm so excited to be leading this journey with you, Jennifer.
Yes, same here. Yes, there's no more words. Just
Yeah.
following life here and
Yes.
in so much gratitude of you in my life, Holly, and
Yeah.
gratitude of our co-creation and sisterhood here. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yes, likewise, likewise. So I'll leave the links for that journey below for anyone that's curious to join and feels that sensation, that curiosity, that desire bubbling up in the body. We are really looking forward to being in this container with you.
Aho. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Ciao.
Ciao.